Addiction. Use of substances or engage in behaviors that become compulsive and often continue despite harmful consequences. Addiction can affect you in many ways, such as legally, financially, spending time with loved ones, school and work, and your physical and mental health. Hello y'all, my name is AlexMan07, and in today's video, we're going to look at the 7 different types of addiction and how it could ruin your life. And we're going to start off with today's video with something basic, which is substance addiction. The definitions of substance addiction is craving or a strong desire to use drugs or alcohol. But let's start off with drugs. There are 2 types of drugs, legal and illegal drugs. Legal drugs are substances like prescriptions like pain relievers or antibiotics, but illegal drugs are substances like heroin or cocaine. So how can this substance ruin your life exactly? The first way it can ruin you is death. According to the CDC, there has been an estimate of 108,000 deaths in 2023 alone. But if you're fortunate enough, you can survive your overdose. But it's not a pretty situation to go through, as you have to go through different stages of recovery, and you won't feel the same since the drug you swallowed did affect your body, since it travels to your heart and lungs. But what about the other substance, alcohol? The way that alcohol can affect you is your organs like your brain, heart, and liver, causing you to have high blood pressure, which increases the risk of heart attacks or strokes. A chemical that is found in alcohol is dopamine, a chemical that makes it so addictive, but when the chemical goes to the brain, it changes your feeling negatively, which leads to depression, anxiety, but the most known emotion that affects is anger. Hence why there are so many cases of child abuse, because that's how alcohol affects the brain. Just like how this next addiction affects the brain as well, which is smoking. The definition of smoking addiction involves physical and psychological factors that make it difficult to stop using tobacco, even if the person wants to quit. As of right now in 2024, 34 million Americans smoke. The main cause of this addiction is what's inside of the cigarette. The main ingredient is called nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive poisonous chemical found in tobacco. When nicotine reaches the brain, it increases the release of chemicals called neurotransmitters, which can help regulate mood and behavior. So how can this affect you if it's meant to relieve your mood and behavior? Simple, your heart and lungs. Smoking this chemical repeatedly can cause strokes and diseases throughout the heart and lungs, damaging your airways, which can lead to the top 2 leading causes of death: cancer. Lung cancer is the #1 deadly cancer to kill over 100,000 men and women. So if you're smoking blunts and doing all that stuff to regulate your mood, you may want to rethink that, because it's actually harming you than helping you. This next addiction may not be deadly, but it can affect the people around you, which is internet addiction. The definition of this addiction is the compulsive need to spend a great deal of time on the internet, to the point where relationships, work, and health are allowed to suffer. Me personally, I do have a hot take about how social media causes stress and depression and all that stuff, but I just don't really see it. But that's for another video. Hence why this addiction is so controversial, because medical opinions do have they're very divided on whether this addiction counts as a medical disorder. How does it ruin your life exactly? The way that this addiction can ruin your life is because you're so glued to the screen 24/7 everywhere you go, whether it's in home, school, or just any public space in general. It's gonna cause you to be more anxious, which again, I don't really believe. And if anything, I think quarantine did that job, because that was the only option we had, to stay home and work from school and work via Zoom. And also TikTok and other social media stars were on the rise, and that was like a way to relieve our boredom. So what you want us to do? Go outside? Well, sucks for us, that wasn't an option. Another way that this addiction can ruin your life is the people around you. You see, if you're at the dinner table and you're on your phone watching YouTube or TikTok and your family's just trying to talk to you and not responding, that's gonna hurt them, because they miss the times where you actually interacted with them and just not you on your phone. And what happens if they die? That's gonna make you regret for not taking those moments with them for granted, because you were so glued to the screen. This leads us to our next addiction, which more than 30% of Americans go through. And this next addiction is food addiction. The definition of this addiction is hedonic eating behavior involving the consumption of highly palatable foods. More than 30% of American adults struggle with obesity. How did they get in this position in the first place? Just like how people got in the first place with smoking, there's one ingredient in food that people love, which is sugar. Think of sugar as the nicotine in cigarettes, but for food. An addictive ingredient making us want more. Many people are like this with candy, fast food, or just any other food that makes it so good that we just want more. Just like me with cranberry juice. Name me a better juice in the comments right now that is better than cranberry, because cranberry juice is the shit. But how does it ruin your life? Well, it ruins your physical image, which could lead to insecurities, making you think that you're not good enough. And also this is followed along with bullying, which I made a video in the past about, and you can check that out. And it was basically about like how bullying can lead to death via suicide. But yeah, if you keep on going down this path, and this is what we call overeating, then you're gonna be part of the 30% of Americans that go through this, and this can be deadly. This next addiction cannot be deadly for you, but it can be deadly for your bank account, and this is called gambling. Gambling is identified as the uncontrollable urge to keep gambling despite the toll it takes on your life. This addiction can ruin your life financially, making you lose your house, go broke, which eventually causes you to go homeless, and when you add those two together, it affects on your mental health as well. I wonder how people in Las Vegas go through this stuff. So why do people do this? Simple. They just want to win money, and they always go in the mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna go win this thing, I'm gonna hit the jackpot and all that stuff. But in reality, they're just blowing off a lot of money by playing games like poker, blackjack, roulette. Take it from the perspective of drugs. It can release a chemical called dopamine in our brain, a feel-good hormone that creates pleasure and reward. Because you're playing these games thinking you'll be rewarded, but in reality you're just losing a good amount of money, this causes you to be stressed and go through a hard time with depression, making you go broke, meaning you can't pay bills, your rent, that'll eventually lead to homeless like I said. But the people who have this addiction are either rich people just blowing off their money, or just very competitive people that think they'll come on top like video games. Which leads us to our next addiction, and researchers say that this is very similar to gambling, and this addiction is called video games. The definition of this addiction is a condition characterized by severely reduced control over gaming habits, resulting in negative consequences in many aspects of your life, including self-care, relationships, school, and work. This may be similar to internet addiction, but I believe it's a little different in a way. Just like internet addiction, it's very classified and debatable if it's considered as an addiction, but it's very similar to gambling because the whole concept about it is about winning, and that's like the main reason why it's so addictive. Just like the internet addiction that we talked about, it can ruin the relationships between your loved ones and your friends, but because we already talked about that, let's talk about a different way they can ruin you. And the way that it can ruin you is your personal hygiene. And that's basically like the reason why they say go take a shower, because like if you're like a prestige in Call of Duty, they're gonna tell you like to go take a shower. And like your social skills as well, because you're playing in your room 24/7 and you just have the game with you, you're gonna have like, you're not gonna be as social skilled, which is why they say go outside and go touch grass, or go get a boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever they say nowadays. And this is also why people are so obese, because they're playing their games 24/7, and the only time they get up is getting up to the pantry to get their food of choice, and just sit back down here again and just munch and play away, ruining your physical image. And playing these video games can spark some behavioral issues like aggression, but that mainly depends like the type of games that you play. Like Call of Duty, for example. Like, bro, don't get me wrong, those COD lobbies were a different breed.
Hey, y'all niggas disconnect this, right? And then there's gonna be no.
And now we're gonna head to the last and final addiction, which is pornography. Unlike the other addictions, I couldn't really find a real definition, but all I can say that it interferes with daily life. Ways that this addiction can ruin you is either your self-confidence or your relationships. Because you're watching videos of attractive girls getting pounded on by very attractive people, you're gonna think that you're not gonna pull someone like Lana Rose, Danny Daniels, Charlie Jennings. Wait, how do you know who those people are? Shut up! Pornography can also affect relationships as well in a very self-explanatory way. So your partner's not gonna appreciate it when they see you watch videos of people getting pounded on, and they're gonna think that they're not good enough for you and that you don't want them anymore. And even if you do have a very attractive partner, pornography can also lower your sex interest, making them feel betrayed. So after all these addictions that I explained, how can we get over them and prevent people from not going down this path? A good simple therapy session can help, or you could talk to someone who went through these problems and ask them their story and how they got over them. And I just want to let you guys know that everyone has a problem. Not everyone's life is sunshine and rainbows, because that's just not the case. So don't feel alone that thinking that you're the only person to have problems, because everyone has their own type of problems. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Follow my Instagram, my TikTok. I'm going to be posting more content on TikTok and exclusive previews on my stories. And let me know down in the comments down below on what kind of content you guys want to see me do. So without further ado, I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys next Thursday.